Hey guys, Heath here again. What we're going to be doing today is we're going to be changing out the long head cables on an M2. The long cables are the ones that go from the main board all the way up through the ink harness here and plug into your CR board. Normally these cables don't have to be replaced too often. That's what the short cables are designed to do, is take the brunts if there's any kind of issues with like fluid spilling down in there, but sometimes they can get damaged. So what we're going to be doing is just going through a step-by-step procedure of how to get to them, how to remove them, and put the ink harness back together. This is an older machine that we had here in-house, so it has been flushed out. It is a good idea to flush the system before doing any major repairs, so that way ink doesn't get somewhere if it drips or something to that order. But if yours isn't flushed, that is okay. But we'll do a couple of things to make sure that none of the tubes get folded over or anything like that. Okay, so the supplies that we get when you do order the long head cables, they come in a set of 3, okay? And you do need to order all 3 of them. So you don't just replace one, they all need to be replaced at the same time. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the large hood here of the machine. I'm going to roll the camera around here to the side so that way you can see the screws that we're going to take out, and also the hinges. Okay, to take this hood off, you will need a 3mm Allen wrench. I like the little T handles because it gives you a little bit more bite, but the little L ones work as well too. So let's get these hinges off first. Over here, let's see, and there is a video dedicated just for the hinge or taking the hood off itself. So, and that is on our support site. Normally there's a little clip that spins around here, but it looks like this right here. Let me take the bottom one off just so you can see it. But there will be one that looks just like that right here, up here on this top one. All right. So, but you don't have to take out the bottom one. All right. You would spin that off, and then you just give this a little bit of a pop, and it pops right off. Okay. And then you can just lay it right down here to the side. Right there. We'll come over here to the other side and do the same thing. See the little pin's already out of this one. Normally I would just spin it out of the way and slide it out. Make sure not to lose it. And then we can just pop this right off and lay it down here in the machine. So then just be careful. You have to, this will drop after that comes off. Just lay it down gently. All right, let's come back around here to the other side of the machine so we can take off our hinges back here. So what we'll do, the 3mm Allen wrench, we always take off the bottom 2 screws so that way you can just lift the hood off. Set these screws here to the side. Right? If you need to, have 2 people do this. And then you would just lift this thing off. Just be careful to lift straight up and then straight off. We'll set this to the side here. All right. So now we've got to remove the back panel here that holds your power boards, your main board, and where the ribbon cables actually plug into. Make sure that you unplug your machine before you do any repairs on them when it comes to anything that is electrical. So I'll just unplug it, set my power cord to the side. All right, there's 3 screws that go across the back here, all right? And then this whole panel just slides up. So let me get my Allen wrenches. It is a 2mm Allen wrench. Or, sorry, 2.5. Never fails. Let's see, what do we got here? Maybe it is a 2. We just had that one in the wrong slot. There we go. Oh, somebody stripped it. Okay, that's why. You know, they say it's hard to find good help. Right, once we get that screw off, it looks like this one's already been removed on this machine. You can tell this one's, it's one of our ink testing machines, just to be up front with it. Set the screws here to the side. Yeah, the Allen wrenches that have the little balls on the tips of them definitely work a lot better. It gives a little bit more bite to it. Once we remove those screws, just kind of set them to the side here, and we'll lift this panel straight up and set it to the side. Put my tools so they don't get lost. All right, just so you can see what's back here. Okay. So going over here, your power comes in from your little wall socket right here, and then goes into our SMPS, or our main power supply. And this distributes power to our lower units for the DTG half of the machine, like our WIM system. It also helps with the bed lifting up and down, those type of things. Then in the middle here is our printer power board that distributes power to other functions like the head carriage, CR motor, the X motors, things like that, and also distributes power to the main board itself. All right, so from here, we have got to start taking this thing apart so that way we can get to the ribbon cables and then put it back together properly. All right. So I'm going to pause this video for a second. I did go get my ink clips, but I'm going to go get some tape to be able to tape these things down when I replace them. So please hold on. Okay. So that wasn't much of a break for y'all, but it took me a chance to walk back to the back of the warehouse. What I got it was some gaffer's tape. It's just cloth tape. You don't have to use gaffer's tape. You can technically use duct tape, electrical tape, or masking tape. And I'm just going to put a small little strip across these little brackets so they don't move. All right, so let's continue taking this thing apart. Next, I'll get a Phillips head screwdriver. And I am going to remove the two screws that hold down the little CR board or box here. So I make sure to keep my screws in order so I know which ones go where. So I will pull these little ink tubes off of this little clip right here in the front. Kind of lean those forward. And I'll pull this little box forward and out and just take right off. I'll put those two screws into the little cup holder right there so I know that they go to it. All right, so then I've got the 3 ribbon cables that plug into the ink harness here that go all the way back here to the main board and plug into these slots. So what I'll do is I'll make sure to label these things and keep these together by putting a little piece of tape around it at different areas. So that way when I put the new ones on, I get the folds correct and the proper placement of where they go. All right, next I'm going to be taking off the little retaining bracket. So I'll go ahead and take the screw out here. All right, set that to the side. Take this one off here. All right, there's 2 separate types of screws. One is a machine screw and one is like a sheet metal screw. Sheet metal has like a corkscrew type of feel to it, whereas the other one is more threads on it. Let me see if I can do that and get it to zoom. Alright, so it's a little blurry, but let's see if we can see that. Alright, but yeah, this one has like a corkscrew, like a wind screw thing, and this just has like a metal screw. So the metal ones always go into the metal parts that screw into metal. The ones that screw into plastic have the corkscrew. Alright. Be careful when taking off this bracket right here. There's a little tab, plastic tab back here that it can snap off. So you just push it backwards and lift it off. There's also a little retaining spring underneath it. We'll set those to the side. Then I can start pulling apart the actual ink harness and clips here. Paying attention to where everything ends, all right? So as you notice, my little plastic backbone as well as my metal backbone right here for the ink harness end right at the edge of this black plastic. Let me see if I can zoom you in here real quick. So it's right there. So it ends right here at this black plastic, right there next to the screws. And there's a little piece of tape over it. All right, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to slowly take off my ink clips. Got to kind of unwind these things here. And I'm just going to replace these with aftermarket ones that we have. A couple of them broke earlier, and some of these, like the original ones, were a little bit fragile. So that's why we kind of upgraded them to a denser piece of plastic, and they hold really, really well. You can tell where they go on here. There's little indentions in the plastic where it has like little indents. That's where these things will hold on to. So I slide the little white tube out of its little holder first, and then I can slide the thing off. Pop out the white tubes. Let's pull you around so you can see a little bit more from this side. Pop the white tube out, and then I can slide this thing off the back here. And you'll notice that flops back. All right, so let's get some of these other broken ones off here. And we'll lay all this stuff out in just a second. All right. So if you do have your ink bottles still on the machine back here in the back, I would definitely loosen the tops before you try to remove the dampers, all right? By doing that, it relieves the pressure that has built up in there when the machine was running. Okay, so let's go ahead. I'm going to pull these dampers off here. So I'm going to unlock the head, take off my little retaining bracket. I'm taking out the 2 thumb screws. Okay, those were those 2 thumb screws right there. Then I carefully weave this around, take my retaining bar across, and then one at a time I'll sit there and pull my dampers up. And I'll just kind of lightly lay them over here to the side. I never try to pinch the sides of them because that way it'll drip, and you don't want that dripping, especially down there on the head. All right, then I'll take my whites, wiggle that back and forth a little bit. And then I'll just lay these out so they kind of face up. Kind of tuck it up underneath that belt a little bit. All right, so that holds those. And then I'll go ahead and disconnect my ribbon cables. All right, just so y'all can see this as well, a lot of people get confused. Let me pull these out of the way here real quick. Put those over there. I'm going to pull the head out real quick. So if I'm looking at these ribbon cables, there's a top and bottom, and then where they plug in on the main board, or on the CR board. So the bottom plug that goes closest to the bottom of the machine, if you follow that up, it goes to the first connector up here. Then the top one right here goes up to the top one on the CR board right there. I hope everybody can see that. Okay, so I'm just going to place this back down in there. We'll level it out in just a second. All right, so now I've got to take this little ink retainer, or the line retainer, off. So that just pops right up. It's like a tube guide. And it just slides out of that little plastic. Make sure not to break that off. A little piece of plastic right there. Set this to the side here. Go ahead and undo these inclines. And then what I'm going to do is take off this black plastic retainer as well up top. Let me see if I can slide that around a little bit more. So this one right here that holds those ink tubes down. The reason I'm taking all this apart, so that way is when I build it back up, that it will lay flat and it won't move the tubes around while it's printing. Alright, so it just pops right off of there. And then I gently take my ribbon cables off. I'll do it one at a time, just kind of pull up on them a little bit. Making sure they stay together, and I'll lay them out flat like this. Okay, let's go ahead and put a piece of tape on them so that way I know that they stay in the correct position. Put a piece of tape down here on the end. So that way when I'm putting the new ones on, I put them in the correct positions, so that way they plug in the correct slots on the main board back here in the back. Alright, so I'll take these ink tubes here, lay those out. Kind of lay those to the side. And then we've got to take off our other brackets that are up underneath here. Let's see if I can pull you around there. So it's these brackets right down there. There's a black one there and a black one right up in there. All right. Go ahead and slide the ink tubes out. And I just put these to the side here. All right. And what I'll do to get those little black clips out is I'll get a flathead screwdriver. Let me take the camera off here real quick, and I'll show you exactly where to push. Alright, so if I'm looking at this black clip here, I go right here in the front, and it just kind of slides out just like that. And I just pop it up. So I can leave my ink tubes on there. I don't have to pull those out. But I do need to be able to get to the ribbon cable that's underneath there. So we'll just leave those. Make note of where they plug in. Like they slip right up underneath these little pegs right here, and it's right next to this little retaining clip. All right, I'll go ahead and do the other one. Oop, got to come up from the side here. I'm sorry if I'm shaky. It's kind of hard to do everything with one hand. So it just pops up. Okay, just be careful. So then we're going to set these over to the side a little bit. And just kind of tuck them up underneath that little belt there. Let me put you back on the tripod so I'm not making you all sick. Alright, so now I've got to take that little bracket right there off so I can get the ribbon cable from underneath it. Having a stool might help. I am tall, so if you're short, make sure you have like a crate or something you can stand on or something secure so you don't fall over and bust your butt. Set those to the side. Okay. So now I can slowly pull the ribbon cables out. I'm going to flip them back this way. And what I'll do is feed them underneath the carriage, and I can unlock the carriage to kind of move it out of the way if I need to. Okay. So then I got to make sure to weave these things around. Let's come over here real quick so you can see it. So I've got the ink tubes kind of in the way here, but you got these little pegs, this little white post right here. So all I do is just kind of push it and it opens up. And then I can pull those out. And then what I'll do is feed these underneath my ink tubes. Sure that it's not catching on anything. Okay. And I make sure to put a piece of tape around this pinch right here. All right, because we got to make sure that the tubes go the new ones go exactly the same way. So let me get another piece of tape here. So I just put a piece of tape on the front, wrap it around a little bit. Doesn't have to be pretty. Then back here, there's another one of these little clips. Slides right off. And then I can pull up all 3 ribbon cables. All right, just wiggle them back and forth and they come out. So then I definitely want to put another piece of tape, or this should probably hold it together. But that way I keep the sequence of which ones go to where. Okay. So I will always start back here at the back and build my ink harness as I'm going. And then I can lay these out on the floor to get the new ribbon cables matched up. So let's do that real quick. Just lay these out. Oh, things you do for work, right? So the way to handle these things is you try not to touch the actual silver parts down here on the tips that much with your fingers. The acids and oils from your finger are not good for it. So just be careful. Some contact isn't going to kill it. Okay. So all these go in the same direction. You'll have the green lettering up here with the blue facing up. So there is a bigger side compared to the other side, which is shorter with the backbones. That's what these blue pieces are. So the big blue ones go back towards the main board, okay? All right, so lay these out. Okay, so I'm going to flip these over to the green part. And what I'm going to do for each one of them is right here, down here at this portion, the top of the green part of the ribbon cable is going to be right there at the base of the blue backbone. Okay? So basically what I've got to do is make a 45-degree angle so that the blue faces up. All right? So it basically, if I have it going like this, it folds under. Bring this up here. That's what you do. All right. Let's see if we can do this here. With the green facing, you basically fold this over so that way it's just underneath the blue part. Makes a 45-degree angle right there. All right, so everybody can see that. A 45-degree angle. The green, it just flips under. Let's go ahead and do another. Make a mess here. Sorry. We'll lay that down gently. Move this over here. So same as before, just kind of fold it over, and you're not trying to kink it, but just give it a nice little bend to it. Just be gentle. All right. Lay that one next to it. Last but not least, just like that. So the green writing should be on the same side as the blue part. So you're basically folding the white to white together. So that way the green is on the outside. All right. So then from here, if you noticed on the old ones, they're all separated, each one of them. So let's match these up here. I had a long table or something like that that'd make it a lot easier, but this is our little media room here. So I'm just going to do it the way they have it set up. All right, so then I take my old cables, kind of match them up side for side. Let's go ahead and take a piece of tape here. Just a little thin piece. And I'll go ahead and tape these new ones so they're all about even. Just put a piece of tape right over the end here. That way they stay together. All right, so now with these matched up, what I'm going to do is do the exact same fold. So basically, with these, I'm going to take this, kind of measure it to the old ones, and just flip it up, just like so. So that way I can pick it up, and it's still a 45-degree angle. Make sure they're all together. All right. And then it just flips them back about 2 inches up. So I measure here, and boom. Put it just like that. So now I have that same fold as the old ones. So basically each one of these are separate. It goes forward, up, down, and then back, down. All right, let's see if I can show you a little bit closer. So new ones, just like the old ones, these are all three separated. Comes back, then it'll be green facing green. And then it direct goes up 2 inches, or 3 inches, sorry, 3 inches up, right there, and then folds back so that the greens are on the outside again. All right, so now from here, let's go ahead and get these onto the main board and fit them through. All right. So what we'll do first is I'm going to slide the camera over first so you can see what I'm doing. All right. So one at a time. The back one goes to the back. So I line up my pins and gently wiggle it down into it. Once I have those in the correct place, I'm going to slide it behind that little white retaining clip right here. Clip it on so it holds it into place. So then I can pull my ink tubes back a little bit, pull those out of the way, and as it comes around the corner here, That's when I'm going to have to lay these out. Just being careful they don't snag anywhere. Kind of use your judgment there. So then, they kind of make that little bend there. I slide these little ends here. All right, and clip that in. So then I can come back around. Let's go ahead and move this carriage out of the way. And just kind of lay these down in here. So, if you did it correctly, the white should be facing up. The green should be on the bottom of all three of these. All right, so now we got to get our backbone and everything back in its proper position. Let's pull this carriage back over and get these tubes out of the way. All right. Let's see if I can pull you around to this side. All right. Pull these out of the way here. So what we'll do is I'll grab the plastic and the metal, pull them together. You'll notice that the backbones here, let me pull this around real quick. This is how they've got those tied together. They put a little piece of tape around the ends here. So that way the ends just butt up securely, and then it goes down all the way, but the clear plastic doesn't go all the way to the bottom. All right. So where these fit, will be basically right next to the screw holes, and they've got to go underneath the ribbon cables. Yep, so got a little piece of plastic down in there. We having fun yet? Okay, so we have these little tabs here. It's going to go on this first tab right there. Right here. So that's where the metal one goes. And then we're going to go ahead and put our ribbon cables on top of it. We'll secure it in just a second. We make sure that they tuck up underneath. Let's go ahead and get our first clip on here for the ink lines and try to lay this as flat as possible. So the way this slides down, just kind of wedges down in here, just get it right where the hole is, and it clicks right into place. A little tug on there, make sure the ribbon cables stay flat and centered. Make sure my ink tubes aren't getting pinched over or anything like that. Okay. We don't want any kinks or anything in them. You go ahead and flip this one back over and get it back into place. Okay, we might have to make some adjustments to the backbone, but we can do that in just a second. Okay, let's go ahead and put the ink retaining bar back on there. Make sure the tubes don't get twisted up or anything. The two screws that go on there have little red tick marks on them, okay? And they have like a loose washer and kind of a lock washer on there too. Oops, try not to drop them. We shouldn't have had so much coffee today, a little shaky. That's okay. That's what we do here. I'll get that started. Get the other one started over here. They do not have to be bare pawed down or anything. They just need to be snug. Keeps them perfectly straight in there. Okay. Make sure to slide this one up underneath there a little bit better. Okay. Let's go ahead and get our white tubes tucked back into our guides. Make sure those don't push up against anything, not rubbing up against anything metal. Another thing that might help you is to take a picture of the original of the way the machine's set up for the ink tubes. All right, so I'll lay these back over. Okay, so now we're going to take our ink tubes back this direction. We'll lay them back across this way. We're going to get the ribbon cables plugged in before we start doing all the ink lines. So just be careful with drips or anything. All right, we'll leave these a little bit on the outside of the machine because I don't want to take a chance of anything dripping down in the head carriage. And we'll slowly feed the ribbon cables over. So we'll do these one at a time. So they all face, the silver part faces towards this side of the machine. The bottom one goes into the first slot. And use the backbone to kind of give it some pressure to push down on it. Okay, if you needed to replace the CR board, what you would do is just take these little plugs out. Always take a picture so you know all the plug-ins. But just make sure to put them all back where they go and then tighten your 4 screws down. Real simple stuff. Okay. Alrighty. So as we remember from before, the ribbon cables were underneath. So what we'll do is go ahead and pop in our little pegs here. Oops. The ink tubes go underneath first. So I'm going to leave this unscrewed so that way I can pull each one of these CMYK tubes through first. Okay? As you can see, the color in them, they're laid out in a specific order. So black, yellow, magenta, and blue. Actually, I think that's wrong. Hold on a second. No, it's right. Okay. So as I feed these around here, just take the dampers, keep them on the outside of the machine. And the little Y adapters are going to be all about the exact same length here. And they'll be right at the end of this where the inks come out. So we slide those under. There's little guides that hold them in place. You would pull them back a little bit so that way the ends of those Y adapters are right kind of flush up to it. And then we'll go ahead and put in that one screw. It is a machine screw, so it'll have the one that does not have the corkscrew look to it because it's being screwed into metal. All right. And let's go ahead and get these. Let's move this little tubes right here out of the way. Careful with them. You don't want these little caps to come off. But they have this little guide right over here that they can stick underneath. And they just fit right there. Okay. They do have a little bit of play going back and forth, but we just want to try to keep these Ys right here at the edge of the black plastic and that little lip that sticks up. Let's pull this around so you can see a little bit better. So, right here, here, and here. Okay, now we're going to put the little retaining bar back on top to hold the ribbon cables in. You notice that nothing is touching metal on these ribbon cables here. All right. So then I'll go ahead and pull my little retaining bar over, or my little backbone here. Let's see if I can do this. I'm going to have to grab it from the other side. Camera was in the way. So it comes directly up to the top here. And it's flush. That's why we have tape over the end of it. All right. So basically it fits right to the edge here. All right. So it doesn't stick out any further. And then I'm going to go ahead and put these little retaining brackets on. You've got the little foil piece first. Then be really careful. You loop this around that little black plastic in the back, making sure not to break that thing off. All right, so the corkscrew one goes into the top one. Do not over tighten or it will crack it. Oops. Let's do the metal one first so it holds it down at the bottom. Might be a little bit easier to get a hold of. Get started with my fingers and then screw it in. Try not to cross thread it. Right there at the edge. Take our other screw, put it right up here on the top. Alright, so that was the most difficult part right there, is just getting everything to line up and then secured right here on this side. Now we're going to piece together everything else with the clips so that way it stays together. Okay, so there will be some slack, so all I have to do is kind of push the tubes around because I want it to lay as flat as possible. Looks like I've got my little retaining bracket here, the little backbone stuck in too far, so I just pull that out a little bit. All right, so as I build this around now, go ahead and push this slack around. I'll have a little bit coming out here, so I can pull this up. Let's go ahead and pull these back around to this side. Alrighty. So we'll go ahead and get our first black one on here. So what I do is I slide it over. Just be careful not to over open it. Make sure that the tubes don't get crossed or twisted. You feed them in one at a time if you need to. Alright, and there will be that little indentation I was explaining earlier. So they line up and kind of tuck up underneath here. We'll get the spacing right as we go. So as we clip this one, it just kind of clips down. And the tubes are in their little guides here. All right. Go on to the next one. And I have to pull some more slack out of this. So when you do that, just grab a hold of them, lightly pull them out. All right. Okay. Let's do the next one. All right, once we got that one on, lays out kind of flat. Keep on working our way around. Another tubes get twisted or in the wrong order. All right. Oh, look at me, I got them twisted. Okay. So it does happen to the best of us. I've got these in the wrong order. It was supposed to go black, yellow, magenta, blue from coming from the back here. So, and I had it in the wrong sequence up here. So I just have to unscrew this real quick, and then I'll adjust all those. Put them in the right sequence. Let's see, gotta undo this one. And this one. Okay, so black goes to the back. Okay. Should be black first. Let's just pull these tubes out of here. And we'll feed them in one at a time the proper way. Okay, so black goes in first. Black, yellow, magenta, blue. Okay, so we'll go ahead and feed this one into here real quick so it holds them for me. All right, then we'll put back on the retainer. Yeah, not getting the tubes twisted is a fun one. All right, but once you got it right, then they stay. Push them back so the Y's are right there at the edge again. So they're not all tangled up. Alrighty. Okay. Fun stuff. Alright, so now bring this back up here. Put it to the edge again. Put a little bracket on. Put a metal piece underneath it. So like I said, that little metal backbone fits directly to the edge of the black plastic right there. So it's just underneath this little retaining bar. Alright. Sheet metal screw first. So the two sheet metal, the ones that have the more teeth to it, not the corkscrew ones, the longer one goes into the black retainer bar, and the shorter one goes into the silver one that's on top here. Once you get that started, line all those up perfectly. Alright, so now I can slide these back in the right way. So, and the way to know is the way they're sequenced in these black clips that are up underneath here. So they have to be in that same position or they'll get all twisted as they go through these little harnesses. Alrighty. So they're in the grooves there. Sorry guys. Okay. That's tight. Do the second one. This is why normally we recommend either a tech visit or having the machine sent in to do these kind of repairs. But just so we have something for prosperity, we went ahead and made a video for it. So if this video seems too cumbersome, definitely let us know and we can make arrangements to have the machine picked up or a technician to come to you to go through this procedure. So we need to pull out a little bit more slack. It's the bottom one here. So you want those to lay nice and flat through here. That's good. Got to feed these tubes up in here a little bit better. A little less slack on them. Okay. Go ahead and give this a little bit of slack underneath here. So that way I can get my ink tubes to go up in there properly. So you got to work them just a little bit, just give it steady pressure to make sure it feeds through there and you have enough slack that it stays flat to this ribbon cable. And put our next clip on. As you can see, this top part's laying nice and flat. Okay, I need a little bit more slack on the magenta tube. There's the blue. If you move them one at a time, they move a little bit easier. Okay. So the end of that backbone basically just kind of sits right under this black clip right here when it lays out nice and flat. You can see the end of it right there. You don't want it going too far. All right. So then I'll feed these around here. Just being careful with them. Those tubes underneath the little clips right there in the middle. Those clips in the middle were those. Try not to twist them. So then when the one at the back, I fit through the little hole here. And it just wedges in there. Sometimes you have to pinch it a little bit. Do the front one. Starting to look like a machine again. All right. Good times. Okay. So these three little clips right here, they just tuck up underneath. Make sure to give those, push those back down. All right. The black one though. Okay. So let's get our ink line guide here. So the way it goes onto the head, it goes black on the outside. And you can go ahead and kind of untwist these, or you can twirl them and braid them if you want to. It's fine. But it goes black first, then cyan. Just be careful if you get any drips on there. Do not try to power up the machine if it drips down there anywhere near the ribbon cables. Then goes magenta, then yellow. We're going to level the head in a second as well. But we need to put this little retaining bar back on here. So we try to keep those in order so they lay nice and flat. And it just tucks right up underneath that little like hourglass looking hole. And we'll put that screw in. I'll have a little bit of a loop over. Alrighty. Make sure none of the tubes are getting squished or pinched or anything. You don't want too much slack, but you don't want too little slack either. All right. So before we had one that was up underneath there. Don't really need to be. We'll just put both of them through this little tube right here, or tube holder. But just make sure that they have enough room so it slides back and forth. I'm going to lightly put these dampers back on. And I'm going to unlock the head and slide it this way to make sure that everything's lining up properly. Okay, make sure it's laying out good, not stretching anything. The tubes are laying on the right side. Make sure the clips are staying clipped. Okay, good deal. All right, an extra secureness that you can do, once you have it laid out flat and nice here, you can put a piece of tape right across here, just a little strips. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll cut a couple pieces. Just like little squares. So I try to put them right there in the middle. Just gives it a little extra hold so it doesn't slide out of the way. It looks like this tape isn't going to hold very well. I'm going to have to get some other tape, so I'll do that at another time. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and put my CR box back on here. So what you have to do is kind of tuck these ribbon cables down just a little bit. So you basically just push here. So it makes that little loop. Make sure those little clips don't go underneath. Slides right back into place. Put your 2 screws in. And then we'll level the head. All right, go ahead and tuck these right back in here. Try to give it enough slack to go around. Let's see what we got. So slide it back and forth a couple times, make sure nothing's binding. All right, that's good. I'll come back here, make sure the tubes aren't getting pinched over anywhere. If you need to, you can undo the, if this got boogered up back in here, kind of like mine did, I didn't go underneath, I went over top. So I can pull this out, go ahead and pull the 3 head cables off. Do them, it usually works better if you do them one at a time. Okay, so I can make sure to loop these under the ink tubes here. So that way they lay flatter. Just be careful with the tips. All right. Put it right back where it was. Just gives it a little bit ease of flow here. Line up my ribbon cables nice and flush. So there's little silver pins in the connectors, and then those line up directly with the little foil pieces on the ribbon cable. Perfectly. All right. That's that, that's that. Okay. Alrighty then. Okay, so we got the ribbon cables going through, under the ink lines, all the way up. There's no like ink lines sticking out from the edges. They're all nice and flush with the backbone. The backbone was flush up here to the edge, all right, or this edge. Has enough cable coming out there, and we're pretty much done. So let me go ahead and level this head back up. Make sure my dampers are down here. Make sure that's seated properly. So what I do is just put the bracket on, I start the screws, or I throw the screws, but not start the screws without tightening them all the way. If you put it right here in the middle, you can get your hand in a little bit better because there's that little gap between the fans. Go ahead and take this platen out too. Don't need to be there. Go ahead and start this other one. You gotta be real careful not to cross thread any of these screws because it is kind of soft metal, it's aluminum. And if you cross thread it, it can strip that little screw hole. And if that happens, it's about $1,000 to replace the whole carriage unit, or you could re-tap the holes. All right, so I look up underneath here, come around to the front. Let's see if I can lower this down a little bit so you can see more. Well, that's not going to be the best view either. Let's take you back up. If you want a little bit more of a detailed head leveling video, just let me know, and I can send you over a video that shows this up close, how to get this thing back in the best way possible. Alright, so I make sure it's nice and level. I can grip it on the fronts and backs of the head, but I put my thumb on the top retaining bar and I grip up underneath here and pinch it together, making sure it's nice and tight. Then I can tighten this screw over here on the side. Do the same thing over here on this side. Tighten this screw while pinching the bracket and the bottom of the carriage together. The damper should be kind of snug underneath there. And then finally lower down my slant lever just above halfway. It kind of butts it up to that little bitty screw that's right up there. You'll see the edge of the print head butt up to it. That keeps it straight. All right. So that's replacing head cables the fun way. All right. So as long as we have that left and right movement without anything buckling up, as if it was printing, I think we're good. Stretch these down. That's why the tape works a little bit better on that. What we can do as well on this black plastic clip to get it up under that retaining bar up underneath it, or the metal backbone underneath it, we can just pop up that little clip and make sure it slides underneath it real easily. Oops. Let me push it from the bottom here. And then it slides up. So then I can wedge that little backbone right up underneath there. See this all right? All right, and then push it back down, the clips. There we go. So, like I said, just to give it a little extra bite there, you can put a little bit of tape going across each one of these brackets, so that way it holds it properly. I might even add me another one right up underneath here, one of these old ones. Hopefully I don't crack it. So normally there's about 6 of these clips to go around. Alrighty. So they all have their own little groove that comes around there. There we go. Got things in line, twisted. Okay. Alrighty, that's it. Well, I hope this was informative. Definitely, if you have any questions or anything like that, definitely let us know. From here, I would basically put back on my panels. Screw holes. All right. And this is what I like to call Miller time. All right, guys. Hope y'all have a great night, and I will talk to y'all soon.